We've gotten the first part of our app taken care of, creating the API. Now we're going to move on to the client. And I just want to do some brief explanation about the setup that we have. So we have all of our pages, and in fact, if you've got your dev script up and running, we can visit localhost 3000 and we can see a very basic layout. We can see the navbar component on top and then the rest of the index page underneath. If we're on the index route, we can also go to the profile page. You'll see in the pages directory, you can go to profile, edit profile, then sign in and sign up, and that's fundamentally it. Note that we have a components folder which consists of our navbar that you saw, as well as some specific components for our index page and for our profile page. If we look at one of these components, you'll see that we have a lot of imports from Material UI. This is to make development a lot easier, to have you focusing on the React code, to not focus on the styles as much. So when we create the markup with the help of Material UI for each of these components, all you'll need to do is just uncomment all of these components and icons. Now when it comes to using Material UI with Next.js, it requires quite a bit of configuration to get going. So you'll see a couple of files here, namely get page context in the lib folder, as well as this custom app page. So we didn't touch on what app is. So this app import from next/app is actually a component which wraps our entire application, and we can extend the app component just like we're doing here in order to do things like fetch data from a data source, like say you're using GraphQL. You can make requests here and provide them to your application, or in this case we're using the app page, the extended app component, in order to wire up Next.js with Material UI. So Material UI is a bit difficult to set up in a server-side context. So first we need to create a theme that we want to use in get page context, and we'll touch on that in a second. Then we'll execute this create page context function as well as get page context to see which context we're operating in. Then in our app page we'll put the executed get page context function. We'll put this in our constructor to put the return value on page context, and we'll use this in order to provide our Material UI theme to our application with the help of JSS provider, Material UI theme provider. We'll use CSS baseline to give us some CSS base styles, things like that. And you'll see here that with app we're able to wrap our navbar, which we're importing, and put some props on it, as well as any component that we have. So we put on it page context and page props. And we'll soon see that this will be significant for passing down data about our authenticated user. But that's all you really need to know right now. If you're interested in taking a closer look at how we integrate Next.js with Material UI, you can of course take a look at this app and the many comments it has, but the repo for it, the repo for the official integration, is done by the team at Material UI, and so you can just go to the following link to check that out. So we'll have a custom app page, a custom document page, which will do some additional stuff. I've already provided the logic for getting the session from the server and getting the user script, just like we saw in the last project with getting the token or the cookie from the server, getting it from the client. I've just wired that up by default so we don't have to rewrite that. So once again we're using dangerously set inner HTML, and if we go further down we can see in the markup that we have a custom head element with a number of favicons, well the same favicon but in different sizes, the theme color which we're getting from the page context, which we'll set in a bit, and this is the dangerously set inner HTML I was referring to, where we're getting the user script. So again, we provide the same logic with making the user data, the auth user data, readily available in our app. And one final note, for many of these components or pages that contain components, we use this with styles higher order component from Material UI core in order to create this styles function, which takes our theme and allows us to use properties that we'll set on the theme or just set by default, stuff like theme.zindex.drawer. We didn't set that. It's just something that Material UI makes readily available to us. It'll give us a common spacing unit that we can use. So we wrap the component that we're exporting. The component here is navbar with styles, as well as our styles function, in order to put on our props object a classes prop, which will allow us to easily set classes using class name on our components on the markup by just saying classes and then referring to the class that we want to use, say like classes.appbar. That's how we'd use this appbar property or class. So that's basically all you need to know to get started. Right now I'm just going to head over to Get Page Context, and we're going to generate our theme. So we're creating our theme, the colors for our application, with the help of create Material UI theme, this function. And we configure all of our colors within this palette object. We can set a primary color, a secondary color, an error color, and we can set other properties that we want. For example, this favorite icon and comment icon that we're setting. And we can also set the type of palette, whether it's light or dark. And in my case, I'm just going to import some preset colors from Material UI core. So we're going to be using teal as our primary color, secondary color will be red, and the favorite icon will be pink with a color weight or a weight of 200 and comment icon blue of 300. And for primary and secondary, this palette by default, or create Material UI theme, will generate for us by default a lot of variations for primary. For example, we can use a light variation of primary, a lighter color of teal than the one that we've set, by referencing primary.light. And these will be set within our classes, but just something to note is that we have a number of automatically generated variants of our primary and secondary colors. And so I'm going to use these colors, I'm going to use this palette, but if you're interested in taking a look at the available choices to you, you can go to materialui.com and check out their color system. You'll be given more information about the palette, where you can see some examples, some variations. For example, you can use hex codes in order to get a very precise color. They have some color tools that makes previewing the colors that you want to use a lot easier. And you can see all the different options that you can import from Material UI core and the colors folder.